Hey, Alex here from BrokeHorrorFan.com with the fourth installment of What's in the Box. I hope you guys still recognize me. I got a haircut recently, which to me is scarier than any horror movie I could ever see, but enough about that because I've got a pretty exciting video for you. This one's coincidentally kind of Stephen King themed, which works out nicely because of course the new version of It just hit theaters recently, and it's doing big money at the box office, which is great for the genre. I enjoyed the movie a lot, so if you haven't seen it for whatever reason, I highly recommend doing so. I had a couple minor gripes with it, and I didn't love it quite as much as some people, but I did think it was really effective and a great adaptation of King's work. You can read my full review on BrokeHorrorFan.com, but for now, let's see what's in the box. Speaking of Stephen King's It, that is exactly the first item I have for you today. This is a new paperback edition of the book featuring the film's artwork on the cover. This one was sent to me by Warner Brothers to promote the new film, and we also gave away a copy on BrokeHorrorFan.com. It was one of the first Stephen King novels I ever read, along with Pet Sematary and Salem's Lot, and it remains one of my favorites. As good as the new film adaptation is, it's really impossible to capture a lot of Stephen King's writing on film. Now this new paperback edition is, as you can see, pretty huge. I already have a hardcover copy, which will be my go-to one if I want to reread it. I think it's a little cumbersome to hold a book that's over 1,000 pages on your lap. But it's still really cool to have. I like that it has the film artwork. That's always a nice touch, as good as the original artwork is. I mean, there's no touching that. What makes this version even better is that it includes an excerpt from Sleeping Beauties, Stephen King's new novel that he co-wrote with his son, Owen King. I'm a big fan of King's other son, Joe Hill's writing, so I'm interested to see what Owen King brings to the table, especially working alongside his father. On a related note, my friends over at Fright Rags recently put out this shirt, which features the original artwork that was on the hardcover edition of Stephen King's It when it was first released back in 1986. Fright Rags worked directly with the original artist, Robert Giusti. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, but please forgive me, my Italian ancestors, if I butchered that. This is the first time it's ever been officially licensed and released on a shirt, which is really cool. I really like this artwork. It features the claw, without actually showing Pennywise the Clown himself, and Georgie's boat going right towards it in the sewer. This release is extra special because $5 from every shirt sold during the first print run was donated to the Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund, which of course is a very noble cause. That first printing sold out in a matter of hours, but you can already order the second printing over on Fright Rag's website. If you collect vinyl, you're no doubt familiar with Waxwork Records. They're one of the best soundtrack labels out there. They release everything from the scores to Friday the 13th, Day of the Dead, Rosemary's Baby, Chud, Trick or Treat, just to name a few. And now they're starting to reissue some of their older releases, including Creepshow, which of course is written by Stephen King and directed by George A. Romero. This release was originally put out in 2014, and now it's been repressed on some new color variants. And it features gorgeous artwork by ghoulish Gary Pullen. I love how his bold style works to the comic book motif of the movie. And that carries over to the interior of the gatefold jacket, which as you can see here features liner notes from Romero. And it has a built-in comic book page, which when you flip features liner notes from composer John Harrison. Harrison didn't compose too many scores, although he also did Day of the Dead for Romero, but Creepshow remains my favorite of his. It's synthesizer-based, and it sounds vaguely similar to John Carpenter's Halloween, which of course was a big hit just a few years prior. But Harrison puts in some eccentricities that kind of separates it from the rest of the synth pack that came out around the same time. The record itself also looks gorgeous. This variant is called Lunkhead, named after the segment in which Stephen King himself stars. And there's another variant called Kill Lights, which is a red-blue mix that emulates the distinct comic book style lighting featured in the film. Whichever version you prefer, you can pick it up now from Waxwork Records. Makes a great soundtrack to the start of your autumn season. Every studio wants its own big cinematic universe these days. Of course there's Marvel and DC, even The Conjuring has its own universe, but before any of those, the first real cinematic universe was the original Universal classic monster movies. You know, you had Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, the Wolfman, and the Mummy all interacting in these movies that crossed over with one another. It's a really cool concept that was obviously way ahead of its time. Now, Universal is trying to tap back into that with what they're calling the Dark Universe, and the first film in that is The Mummy. Unfortunately, it barely resembles the classic horror films on which it's based. Instead, they go more of an action route. Now, I love a good action movie, but if that's what you want, start your own action franchise. You don't have to bring the monsters down with you. It should be dark and scary, not this light, fluffy action spectacle. It's really not bad for what it is, but it doesn't instill a lot of confidence in me to see the rest of the franchise. Tom Cruise stars. Now, I don't really have a problem with him as an actor. He does his own stunts, and there's some cool stunts in the movie. Sophia Boutella plays the Mummy, and she's good with what she has. Russell Crowe shows up as Dr. Jekyll, and he kind of serves as the Sam Jackson, Nick Fury character that's seemingly going to bring everybody together if future installments even happen. It's directed by Alex Kurtzman. It's only his second real movie, but he's written big movies like Transformers and Star Trek. Now, on paper, this should have been a big blockbuster, and they tried really hard to make it one, but audiences seem to agree that this was just lacking some kind of soul. So I really hope, if the franchise continues, they do some rethinking and go back to the horror roots. I've mentioned Comet in a previous video. It's a cool channel that plays a bunch of classic and not-so-classic horror and sci-fi movies. And if you don't get the channel, you can tune in to comettv.com and watch it all for free right there. They send me a package of stuff every month. It's usually a bunch of cool little stuff. This month's box only had one thing in it, but it's my favorite package they've ever sent me. As you can see, it's wrapped in what looks like caution tape, although it actually says Comet Insider Materials on it. And there's these little air holes punctured in it, so I was pretty intrigued when I saw this, and even more excited when I opened it. And I'm about to show you why. Godzilla. What they're playing are American dubs of the Japanese movies from Toho. This is actually from the 2014 American remake, but I'm willing to overlook that because, I mean, it's got this shirt that even has holes in the back for his spikes. And I'm actually a fan of the 2014 remake too. I actually have a much bigger version of this toy sitting right here. Let me show you. Come on. Oh yeah, look at that guy. I mean, this is love at first sight right here. So thank you, Comet. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate the support so far. And if you have any input, please leave me a comment below, or you can also like and subscribe. And now that the Halloween season has kind of unofficially begun, I'm planning a lot more video content, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with it all. Until then, I'll see you with more What's in the Box.